Welcome to Tech Tuesday. We have a wonderful Tech Tuesday playlist where we usually feature some crazy things involving tech, AI, and yes, killer surfing snails. But, hey, you never know what you're going to find in this playlist. Today, we're going to be watching Meta's most important VR headset yet, the super cheap Quest 3 for only $200. And you know what, man? I hate to say it, but Meta's finding a way to make this affordable and get this out there to the masses for adoption at a $200 headset. But how good can it be? Let's check it out. Price is key, dude. Price is key. What's up, Branica? Welcome to the live stream.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday Newsday, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. So it's been 30 years since their last attempt, but Nintendo may be finally taking a stab at VR again. The Meta Quest 3 may be right around the corner, but a $200 headset from Meta is looking to launch next year, which is probably one of the biggest deals for the entire VR industry that I've seen in a long time. Plus, we got tons of insane VR research that I think you'll really enjoy if you like VR at all. We got all that and so much more, so let's just get right into the news. So right now, in VR, interaction with virtual objects is usually done through haptics, the same kind of haptics that have been found in game controllers for the past 20 years. And while I've explored plenty of
And the same haptics that are currently in my pants.
in the past looking to solve some of the disconnect between the virtual and reality, nobody's really nailed the formula down yet. There's a lot of exploration that still needs to be done. And turns out a few new prototypes have just popped up that look really promising. Let's start with something from Sony, actually. This is their augmented haptic experience. Basically a VR controller that takes the shape of a baton, but inside there's a weight that's controlled by a precise motor that can be shifted based on all sorts of input. The researchers put together a demo that showed off the feeling of an umbrella opening, shooting a gun, and slicing through enemies. And the written feedback showed that when in VR, the sensation of the weight shifting felt incredibly realistic. You don't always have to make something actually realistic feeling for it to feel real in VR. Now, Sony doesn't have a plan to commercialize these specific prototypes, but they've been known to do crazy things with their controllers in the past, so I wouldn't say it's off the table. However, that wasn't the crazy one that I want to talk about. This is the Shift from the University of Tokyo, a crazy gauntlet that uses two opposing gyros or spinning weights mounted on a gimbal. And this setup can almost defy gravity and weight, at least perceptually. The Shift basically makes your arm movements feel heavier or lighter using these gyros, which I'm sure you can imagine just how useful and immersive that would be in VR, and I can also imagine how trippy it would be to be immersed in a VR simulation.
For sports games, for anything related with any action type of video game, man, like FPS, like that would be insanity. But like, come on, this must be like very beginning baby stage here. Look at this thing with the giant cable, and it's just, like it's just like, we got to package it up better than this, man. This must be the prototype, but like, man, what a good idea.
And quite literally feel gravity get stronger or weaker as something happens in game. An interesting demo they showed off this technology was with two buttons placed in front of the user. One was really difficult to press, like there's an opposing force pulling or pushing your arm away from pressing it. The other one was extremely easy to press as the gyros guided the arm towards the button. Some really cool stuff, even if it's a little bulky for practical usage. But then there's Jump Mod. Honestly, the weirdest out of the three, at least to me. It's basically the same idea as Sony's prototype, except it's a massive backpack that augments your jumps, making it feel like you jumped significantly higher, or even simulating landing in different materials like mud.
I gotta say, man, like that's insane, but like, don't you think that's a little bit overkill to have like a giant, like strap that thing on your back, for God's sake? Who's gonna do that? Starlet, is Starlet here? Starlet, let me look in the chat right now. Is Starlet still? Nope, Starlet's not here. I'm gonna shame her. I'm shaming her right now. Starlet, I know you watch these on YouTube. You should be here right now. I'm totally shaming you, Starlet.
Shame.
I'm asking you, Starlet, when you see this, you let me know. You either DM me or let me know in the YouTube comments. Would you wear that, Starlet? Would you wear that? Come on now. Come on.
It's just that I don't know if I'd really want to be using this for very long. But the last of these prototypes
Right.
is something that'll look really familiar if you're
By
aware
the time you strap up with all the gear, you're literally Gundam. you literally
of
Gundam.
Lucas's DIY VR gloves. Basically a haptic glove solution that allows you to feel virtual objects. Except this is done even smaller and for even cheaper, possibly even just a few bucks. The setup is just a set of rings that go on your fingertips. Each one has a small motor with a few strings attached. And when you touch something in VR, the string constricts, making it feel like you actually touch something with the pads of your fingers. Really
Oh, hell no, man. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. I have this weird, like, I had this crazy vision, like, that it was going to cut into my fingers. Dude, fingers. Did you feel that? Did you feel that, fingers? Dude, they're like little tourniquets, man. Dude, fingers. I said only 2 times could we play that today. That would be the 3rd time that you played that, Pepe.
string constricts, making it feel
that
like
scares me. That's going to cut off my fingertips, man. This is straight from Silence of the Lambs. This stuff is crazy. This is Seven. This is every horror film. It's giving me Seven vibes. Like something's going to happen, man. Like this is going to cut my fingertips off for real. I don't trust that. You kidding
like
me?
you actually touch something with the pads of your fingers. Really awesome stuff all
It's a
around.
cool idea,
and
though.
while this research may not come to your Amazon wishlist page anytime soon, these sorts of projects are truly invaluable to building immersive technology for the masses in the future. And if there's one thing I've learned after testing so many things, it's not so much about the complexity of the hardware, but instead how it's implemented. So by all means, please test away. And now, before we get into this $200 mass adoption quest that's supposedly coming before you know it, let's talk about
mass adoption quest. Exactly what is going to be used for. This is their bread and butter. This is going to be their bread and butter, man. They're trying to onboard as many people as they can. They're like, okay, fine. This is exactly what Elon Musk is doing with Tesla. He is going to shut everyone out. He's basically taken down these cars' costs by like crazy amounts. I think what was, I don't know, it was the Model X. He took $30,000 off, if I think I'm correct on those numbers. In the past 6 to 7 months, maybe 8 months, Elon took it down $30,000. First off, it's hard to get like car loans, right? Not a lot of people buying cars right now. But he wants to shut out any competitor at any price. It's right out of the Elon Musk playbook, and Zuckerberg's doing the same thing. He's like, all right, Elon, I see you. We're going to do the same thing with our VR headsets on the MetaQuest 2. We're going to lower this down to 200 because you're onboarding as many people as you can, getting that adoption you so desperately need.
about SideQuest. And
Model
if you
3.
don't know what
Yeah. Model 3. I think the X came down too as well, DEF CON.
SideQuest is, it's an awesome app store for VR content that works on almost every VR headset, allowing you to sideload apps that aren't on the Quest or other stores. It's an amazing tool, and I think almost everyone knows about it, especially if you have a Quest.
I wish I could,
and well,
man. I
if you're
think
looking
Teslas
to
are slick.
buy a Quest 3 in the coming months, SideQuest may be able to help, as they've actually sponsored this video to have me announce that they are officially giving away a Quest 3 every single week until Christmas on their brand new social VR platform called Banter. It's a Bone Lab-like physics-based social VR game, which is freaking awesome. There's kind of nothing like it out there, and it's free too. And if you want to take part in these giveaways, you actually don't even need to be in VR. While the giveaways are in Banter, it is launching on Steam for PC VR and flat screen on the 15th of this month. And if you're on Quest, well, you could just download it on SideQuest. This is without a doubt the best sponsor I've ever had of all time. I love SideQuest. And
I used to do that in Second Life all the time. I'd go there and have like these movie theaters back in the day. I think it was like 2006, 2007. I was like an advertising agent, man. I would find these cool places to go. In Second Life, I played it for 2 years, and I was just going around converting lindens to cash. I thought that was the way to go. But then I'd find these really cool places, man. And they had a movie theater in Second Life, and you could click on like whatever you wanted. You could watch like movies in the game, and I'd just like chill out and watch some movies that they had there, man.
is without a doubt the best sponsor I've ever had of all time. I love side quests, and I think everyone does. So thank you so much for supporting the channel, but also for getting more headsets in more people's hands. That's what I'm all about. So a link is in the description and pinned comment for you to check it out. But let's go back to the news. So new information just dropped on a super cheap VR headset coming from Meta in just a year, as well as surprisingly a new Quest Pro model. And both of these things give us some really deep insights as to where Meta's hardware is headed in the future. Reportedly, Meta and LG are working together on one of these headsets, and it isn't the cheap one. Instead, it's stated that their collaborative effort will be a headset that should cost less than $2,000. Now, there's not much information on this, and it's still a long way away, planned for a 2025 release, but it's still interesting to mention. This headset would be a direct competitor to both the Apple Vision Pro and Samsung's upcoming headset at the high end of mixed reality devices. And I should also say that the Korean article this was published within calls this LG Meta headset the Meta Quest 4 Pro, not 3 Pro or Meta Quest Pro 2, but instead the Quest 4 Pro, which makes it seem like there'll also be a Quest 4 by 2025-ish as well, which actually kind of makes sense if you break it down. You've got the Quest 3 coming in just a month, and then next year a significantly cheaper version of the Quest 3 is supposedly coming, and then in 2025 you've got Quest 4 and Quest 4 Pro. Which brings us to the other headset that is probably way more interesting to most of you that was also detailed in this industry report. So, as we all know, Quest 3 is launching at $500 in just about a month. But in just a year, a much cheaper version of it is supposedly coming, and it would likely resemble something similar to a Quest 3 Lite of sorts. Maybe a Quest 3 Go, who knows? I can imagine that this version of the Quest 3 would just omit some of the more expensive features that are on the Quest 3. Perhaps it'll launch without controllers like the old Oculus Go. Meta has hinted at something like that for quite a while now, and with how good hand tracking is getting, it's totally plausible. Or maybe it'll just be a Quest 3 without a depth sensor, or without the pancake lenses. We really don't know yet, we only have this basic picture. But what I can say is that if Meta actually releases a $200 VR headset that is anywhere even close to as capable as the Quest 3, that would probably be the single biggest jump VR has ever seen in terms of adoption, at least if done right. Which,
if done right, it all comes down to the titles. It really just comes down to if the games are worth playing. The industry has to lock down some titles that make people talk. That's it. The headset can be really awesome, right? But if there's no titles, then it won't matter. So the titles have to be like ridiculously good. The experience has to be very good as well. If they can lock it down and introduce it that way with plenty of titles, we did see that Zuckerberg was actually creating a library now. They're actually focused on the creation. There's a lot of development going on. And they're going to offer plenty of titles. Coming out next year, this is a game changer if they introduce it right. This could fall flat on its face if they don't. This is a turning point in VR right now. This comes out with a $200 price tag, and there's titles, and people are enjoying them. Watch out. It's going to light on fire. If not, it's going to be a nothing burger. And what's going to end up happening? It's gonna be a setback for the industry if they don't do it right. This is what I'm worried about, because this has happened before in VR. Build yourself up, and then poof, like a house of cards that falls down.
I hope it's done right, because I don't think Meta really expects the Quest 3 to be anywhere close to as big of a deal as the Quest 2 was. I personally sort of doubt they'll sell the 20 million the Quest 2 did, especially out of the gate, even if it does look amazing. And
I will say this, though, $200 price point is where it's at. I will say this, man. If like $200 price point is the adoption price,
it's better in every way. It's still expensive. Whereas if this new Quest 3 Lite version does end up happening for $200, well, now that's the kind of headset I could really see taking off to demolish Quest 2 sales even. Hence bringing in a lot of players, and along with players comes lots of developers. And I'm gonna put in my prediction now. You can come back and let me know if I'm right in a year and a half or so. But 2024, and in particular the Christmas of 2024 and the beginning beginning of 2025 are going to be massive years for VR,
if done right. And this is why I love Thrill Seeker. Nobody in the VR space is reporting on it like Thrill Seeker does, man. Nobody.
Not the biggest years of VR we've ever had. That is if this headset actually does come out. But of course, all this being said, industry reports, even somewhat reputable ones like this one, are still just reports. And until Meta themselves announce something, it's as good as a rumor. So take your grain of salt. Meta has been known to shuffle around headset designs and prototypes all the time, so we'll just have to wait and see. But I also gotta say, I'm pretty on board with this idea though. In the future, to have 3 headsets at all times essentially. The mainline flagship headset, the super cheap but still pretty good version, and then the top of the line crazy enterprise headset, and they all drive different sectors of VR in their own ways. And I hope more companies like Pico and HTC Vive also hop on that train as well. I think it's a good one. Okay, so if there is one company that I think could really change the face of VR forever, it's actually not Apple, it's Nintendo. Look, we've got pretty decent VR hardware by this point, and we've had it for a while and it's only getting better. What we're really missing is a big catalog of compelling games and titles. And turns out there are 2 things Nintendo is really good at despite their other faults. One is their compelling titles, that's why people stick around. And 2, they're really good at innovating their games to work on weird or even underpowered hardware. And well,
he's so right. He is so right. You know, like Nintendo could clean up here and become the Nintendo of old, man. Like the 1980s Nintendo. Nintendo could actually make a big name for themselves in this space right now by using recognizable characters that we all loved as children. They could own it up. Nintendo always messes up though, man. Nintendo always messes up. Why does Nintendo always mess up when they had it so right in the 80s? I don't get it, man. I don't understand. With as many titles as they have and popular characters, you know, we keep coming back for them. I love them, man. I love them. But like, I feel like execution is always off with Nintendo. Agreed. Yeah, maybe they're just going for the quick flash bang, right? They're taking Mario and they're pimping him out. And Princess Toadstool, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's what's going on, DEF CON. They're just pimping them out as quick as they can and get that corporate cash, man. If they took their time and did it right, Thrill Seeker's absolutely right. Can you imagine pairing up like a cheaper headset from Nintendo and then putting all these titles on it and you're like in there? That would be insane, man. That would do so good.
Well, don't get too excited yet, but according to a relatively good source that has been accurate on a few Nintendo leaks in the past, the company is in fact working on a VR headset. But not only that, the leak specifies that this prototype has been around for a decent amount of time now. It uses micro OLED displays and is currently in testing. It's also stated that Nintendo is working with Google and another company they've acquired.
They're working with Google, huh? Man, they could really own it up. They could really own it up if they went 1980s Nintendo style on this. Dude, it could be a giant resurgence. It could be, if they did this right, wouldn't that be a trip to see Nintendo come back hard?
To build this headset. Some other details is that this would be an independent piece of hardware, so it wouldn't be tethered to a Switch or Switch 2, for example, and that it is...
Get out of here, man. Get out of here. And then you get me like those old school gadgets. You remember the Power Glove, man? Forget about it. Forget about it. You remember the gun they had? You played Duck Hunt with, man? Get out of here, man. They could do this so right. They could legit bring back all those like wonderful gadgets from the 80s, but do them all up differently in a VR style. Are you kidding me? They could do this so right if they decided to do it.
In fact, for domestic use, so at home. This isn't...
Fingers is right. Companies are getting poised, but no one wants to make that first move. But you know who does? Meta. Fingers, I'm telling you, Meta's making the first move. Zuckerberg's being really smart about this, and I hate to give him credit, but he's absolutely doing this the right way. Don't get it twisted, though. He's only doing it to get your eye data. He just wants that headset on so he can directly suck all the information that makes you out of your eyeballs. It's really the only reason why Zuck's doing it. But, like, they're cornering the market, and they're going to be the first mover on this, you know?
It's a theme park device, in other words. And while there is no way to really prove the validity of this information, I think it's really worth at least thinking about. Nintendo's been known for their weird takes on hardware, and they've been pretty surprisingly forward-thinking over the past decade or two. I mean, between motion controls a decade ago, 3D displays, they're
the ones that take the risk, and they do, are the ones that profit the most and the ones that you should buy shares of. Not financial advice, but this is what I found. Disruptors. When you get companies that are disruptors that are willing to take those risks and they execute, that's how you end up getting that value from those shares, right? And Meta, when they switched gears and they became Meta from Facebook, they got tarnished by the name Meta and what metaverse means to gamers, right? Like most times metaverse makes everybody just want to vomit in their mouth. They hear that and they're like, ugh, because of the way they introduced it. It was a horrible introduction to the space. It was just a horrible introduction to it. Let's be real. But they are the ones that are probably going to corner the market. And don't think they're not going to, I know when Finger says retina scans in chat, don't think that shit doesn't happen, by the way. It does. The funny thing is you get all these devices around you, these phones, the mics are open all the time, like Alexa, any of these things around you that are always constantly listening to you, that you give permissions for these things to listen to you. Christy just got fired from her job after working there for 17 years, right? It's a famous insurance company, and that's all she's talking about right now, right? Guess what commercials we're getting? Guess what commercials we're getting on YouTube? Guess what commercials she's getting on her phone? She's seeing it everywhere now. She hates it, dude. She's seeing her former employer show up on every device that she has because it's literally listening to you. Do not think for a moment that when you put one of these on your face that it's not sucking data from your eyeballs. It's going to find a way, dude. It will find a way, and they will make it happen. And don't think it's silly or conspiracy theory. It's because it's corporate and they want as much information and money as they can, and they will do it. So for people that are like, oh, Finger just sounds like he's conspiracy theorists that are watching the video, dude, you better look around you. I was just talking about this with Christy. We were taking a walk, and I'm like, man, we are so plugged in after she received a commercial from her former employer on her phone because she's been talking about it nonstop. Dudes. It's everywhere you look. I said, could you imagine us in the 90s if we looked at ourselves now? Like, imagine our former selves from the 90s, fast forwarded into the future, and saw how we were living all plugged in. Don't you think our 90s versions would slap us in the face for everything that we've given them? Don't you think our 90s versions would laugh at us and be like, this is not who I've become? I feel like my 90s version would be very disappointed in me for everything that I am connected to right now. I literally gave up my privacy. It has happened. We are in the age where we have literally gave them for the tech, for the vibe, for the feel, man. And I just had this moment where I was walking and I said, I'm like, Christy, I'm like, what do you think we would have said to ourselves? Like, what do you think our 90s version would say to ourselves right now, seeing us connected to all these things, man? And she started laughing because she's always on her phone. And I try and stay away from the phone. Like, I feel like it's very addictive, man. I try not to plug in as much as I can unless I'm here or I'm gaming. This is as plugged in as I get.
Labo and augmented reality games more recently, I would not be surprised in the slightest if Nintendo has already been messing around with VR prototypes for a while now. And in my opinion, it's not so much a matter of if Nintendo gets into VR, it's a matter of when and how. And I think the only way that...
DEFCON says, I was talking to my wife about getting a pergola in our backyard, and within hours I was given 3 ads about those. Dudes. Think about all we've given to them. Like, really, for a moment, go deep into that vibe. Think about all we've given them the past 2 decades. It's a little crazy. And you know what I'm seeing on YouTube a lot? People who are like living out in nature. They just said enough. They just found some land. They bought some land. They built their own thing on it, and they're living off of it. They got solar power. They're living off the grid, man. They're like, enough. And like, I find myself watching a lot of those videos. Anybody else do that? Watch those videos where people just decide to live off the grid and go back to nature, man. I'm watching a lot of that lately.
Nintendo doesn't do VR at some point is if they go bankrupt. It might take 10 years, but we'll see it eventually. Now, whether this device that's being tested is actually ever going to get released is a whole different thing, and this is something that we just have to wait to see or just wait for more leaks. But man, just imagine
It's kind of brilliant. Fingers says, but paying for it all by making videos off the grid. Exactly what they're doing, Fingers. It's crazy. There is a dude I'm watching. I wish I could link him up here. I forget his name. He's on my recommended when I go over to Christy's house on her TV. I'm watching this dude all the time. He's like in his 20s. He said enough is enough. He's tired of politics. He's tired of the world. He's tired of people. He just moved out to nature. And the dude is filming with 2 cameras. And he's showing himself building his cottage. He's a really good builder. And he's probably paying by making these videos. He's probably paying for his food and living off the land based upon using technology that's solar power. He's using solar power for his electricity, and he's hooking up his laptop and he's hooking up his cameras. And he's just like, hey, here you go. I'm out here in nature doing my thing, man. It's crazy. He's using the technology. The irony is he's using it back on the corpos. I think that's the brilliance of it. He's actually twisting it around. He's living out on his own, not paying anything. And he's using the technology that he used to be plugged into to fuck him right back. And I just got to say, you know, when I see that, yes, I think that's brilliant. Now, could your pal DG go poop in an outhouse every day? No, dude. No, dude. I don't mind. I don't mind people, you know, for the most part. My people are right here with me live, but like I can adapt. I can be in an environment with a lot of people. I'm not generally a people person, but like, I don't know. I think I could take a little trip out into the top of a mountain and live there forever if I wanted to, but do I want to? I don't know. I do like my gaming. I do like my PC, man. I do like that.
Between a $200 Quest and Nintendo thinking about VR hardware and software, if you were ever running out of VR industry hopium, well, here's a fresh dose. Things are looking pretty exciting. But on to a few things that are a bit more grounded in reality. I think the first time I read Ready Player One, one of the most interesting aspects of the story's world wasn't so much the hardware or the Oasis itself, but it was actually how public schools were handled. I just found it a fascinating idea that you could go to school and possibly even receive a better education by using VR. It's like a VR chat high school almost. And this very concept is turning out to be a very real thing today.
I don't know about that, man. Call me old school, but I don't know how much learning's happening in this classroom right here, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, I guess I'm old school, man. I still like the number 2 pencils, you know what I mean? I still like cursive writing. I think when you write things, you remember them faster. You remember them more. Your memory picks up when you write things down. Try and write things down versus typing things down. When you write it down, the muscle memory ingrains it into your brain like no other. It's science. Go look it up. Like, kids don't even do that anymore, man. They're just using ChatGPT to answer everything that they need, using it to write their papers. Like I don't know, this would be like the classroom. I would just bust it down old school, man. Like, hey, you got to wake up in the morning. You got to go to school. You got to learn like every other child in the history of children that went to school. You got to deal with this. You know what school teaches you? Tolerance. You know what else school teaches you? School, it gets on everyone's nerves, man. School gets on everyone's nerves. This is the ultimate arena right here. If you can survive it in the way we survived it, then you can survive the world. And that, I think, is what's going on and is the problem with kids today, man. Like, they ain't even like connected to the hardcore. They're on their phone. They're not paying attention to anything, man. They got to learn to be able to tolerate it. If they can tolerate this hell, not this one, but if they can tolerate the physical hell of going to school, the teachers, perhaps you're being bullied, perhaps you're a cool kid and you're learning that you should be cool to everybody. Okay, you're learning a lot in school. You're learning how to interact with other people that are really there. Like, dudes, man, I kind of miss like old fashioned school. They should take all the kids' phones out of the school. I know this is so unpopular, but to be a better nation, man, to be a better country of people, to be more civilized, you should go into a classroom of 29 of your peers, and you should have to deal and tolerate with Billy, who farts all the time, Sarah, who never stops talking, Jonathan, who's the class clown who always makes you laugh, Eddie, who thinks he's the smartest person in the world. He's an egghead. You got to deal with all of them. You got to deal with all of them. And if you can do this all the way to the 12th grade and you can tolerate it and you can get the first half of your life, your most transformative years, if you can get through all this, hell yes, you deserve that diploma afterwards. Hell yes, you deserve it, no matter what your GPA is. You solved it. You got through it. And that's why I think school is really important. Escaping that hell by going into this VR chat room is not the answer to teach anyone. You have to literally be in the hell of the real world. That's school. That is what school is. I did it. Everybody else should do it.
The Florida-based Optima Academy is a current modern-day school available from kindergarten to 9th graders that takes place entirely online. Now, that's nothing super new, and this isn't all set in virtual reality, but VR is where Optima Academy holds almost all of its extracurricular activities, whether they be a field trip, lab, history lessons, and they even...
But this is what it's probably going to end up going to, right? Right, Orson? Like a mobile kind of thing. If they did it right, like if it was a one-on-one kind of learning experience, I think that would be more helpful. Like, but there's no way you're going to have a one-to-one ratio, one teacher per every student. There's absolutely no way. But I think one way that would work the best in a VR environment is a one-to-one ratio. Oh man, Orson, what if that's what happens, dude? That would be crazy. Like, what if your teacher is an AI? Oh my God, dude. Wow, you know what, Orson? I think you looked into Nostradamus's bowl and saw the future, bro. I think you saw the future, man. That sounds like 100% possible.
Hold some classes in VR. And I've always just imagined the possibility of a VR-based primary school where your lessons are closer to a magic school bus adventure than just sitting at a desk all day. I know I would have enjoyed school a lot more as...
I mean, through the irony of the technology is that the more connected you become to this reality, the more disconnected you become to this, the physicality, man. And that's the crazy part about it. At what point does that blur to where the physicality really phases out and you're just, and you're in it, and that is your reality? And then you trip and fall in real life and hurt yourself, and then you realize, oh shit. You know what I mean? What's up, Leaf? How are you doing? It's so good to see you here, my friend. Good to see you here. We're waxing philosophical a little bit. What's up, Figment? Welcome back, dude.
A kid, and I gotta say their VR implementations don't really look that good right now. Like, honestly, they don't look amazing. But the fact that this even exists and it is a viable option for people to go to school and do things in VR is amazing. And of course, we gotta start somewhere if we want that to actually happen. So if you're one of the people that have modded out your Quest 2 like crazy, I do got some bad news for you. It seems that accessories built for the Quest 2 will not be compatible with the Quest 3. A recent
Zuckerberg has taken a page out of the freaking Apple playbook, man. Zuckerberg has taken a page out of the Apple playbook. Wow, man. We've gone corpo overload. But you're right. Understandable. But you're right, man. These corporations are getting tooth and nail. They're fighting with one another, especially in a bear market. You're going to see more and more and more of this as the market conditions and the economy gets worse and worse and worse. You're going to see a more cutthroat, lean, mean corpo fighting machine. They are starting to draw their lines as well. It's just not countries and nations. It's also corpos. They're starting to draw lines now, man. The lines are being drawn everywhere you go. You notice that? It used to be this global economy. It used to be this global world. Everything felt good. Everything was very fluid and open and accessible. And now it's like, fight. Mortal Kombat.
Recent photo taken of the accessory side panel puts the two head straps next to each other, and they're clearly just different sizes. Now, people are crazy and they mod all sorts of things to work with things they're not supposed to, but out of the box, it looks like you'll have to reorder a lot of your comfort accessories if you do upgrade. That's something to think about. On the flip side, I got some great news.
Oh my God, the blood is being sucked out of Thrill Seeker's eyeballs, man. What is going on here? Thrill Seeker, that headset is sucking blood out of your eyeballs, man. Watch out. That headset just went Matrix mode. It is sucking out the blood in your body and pumping some blue stuff into you, man. Wake up. Thrill Seeker, wake up.
Now, if you're already deep in the Echo VR community, you'll probably already know about this, but for everybody that doesn't, another Axiom, the creators of Gorilla Tag have teased that they are working on a spiritual successor to the recently shut down Echo VR. And this is not just a remake of Echo, it's a total reimagining, taking what the studio has learned from Gorilla Tag and Echo and making something totally new that's in their own flavor. It's estimated this game will launch maybe late next year, which is a while, but it is an early access for testing, and it's really good to see nonetheless. It's also a really cool story as well, because Lemming, the creator of Gorilla Tag and Another Axiom, actually got their start in VR in Echo VR as a champion, so it's a bit of a return to form, and I can't wait to see what they cook up. Alright, so I wanted to say that in case you wanted some behind the scenes videos and some extra content.
Alright, that's cool from Thrill Seeker. I enjoy his approach to the space. He's got the journalistic touch. And every Tuesday here on DG360, if you go to the channel like you did back in the early days of YouTube, nobody does that anymore. But you go to DG360 channel, there's tons of playlists for you guys. There's tons of variety, and I hope you guys check it out. I really do.